Welcome to Talk Jam, musicians jam just for fun. Here at Talk Jam, recorded live and then flash frozen in a secret undisclosed location somewhere on the planet, two good friends talk about everything under the sun. It's about writing, it's about books, it's about the Bible. It's a lot about history, politics, and conspiracy theories. We're serving them all up in one big jam. Let's join authors Kelly Fitzgerald Fowler and Susan Sloate as they talk from here to eternity. Let the jammin' begin. Here are Kelly and Susan.
Hello and welcome to Talk Jam. This is Kelly Fitzgerald Fowler.
And this is Susan Sloate.
And today's episode is brought to you by the book Forward to Camelot by Susan Sloate and Kevin Fenn. And we're going to talk about some fun stuff today. We're going to start with a really great article that Susan got published just recently. Yesterday in the National Pulse, which is thenationalpulse.com. And it was on the topic of chloroquine. What do we know? ? So we thought it would be a wonderful time for her to give some more in-depth about this article and about her experience of getting the article published and all of that. So Susan, tell us all about it.
Well, this is very exciting. This is I've actually wanted to do some political writing for some time, and I haven't, really quite figured out how or what to do it. And then what happened is that I started listening to a podcast. Yes, people who are podcasters listen to podcasts, so there it is. I started listening to a podcast a few months ago that was run by Steve Bannon and a guy named Raheem Kassam. Steve Bannon, by the way, was the chairman of President Trump's election campaign in 2016, and he really helped to get him elected. He was actually chairman at the same time that Kellyanne Conway was campaign manager. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the point was he went on to work with Trump in the White House, and he eventually left the White House after about a year or so and said he was going out to be a warrior for Trump. And he's a very, very bright guy. He's done a lot of amazing stuff. He's been in the Navy for a long time. He's been involved in a lot of intelligence things, and he knows an enormous amount about China. Mm-hmm. And he's constantly talking about what an incredible threat they are. And he's been doing this for a very long time. So when the pandemic came along, that was another matter altogether. But the point is that Bannon had a podcast called War Room Impeachment. This is back when they were trying to impeach the president. Right. And he said that he would keep this on the air every day of the week for an hour a day, or sometimes 2 hours a day, until the president was acquitted, which he was. And when they went from that, they immediately went away from War Room Impeachment and went to War Room Pandemic, I think. And I'm pretty sure at that point they were starting to kind of look into what was going on with all this stuff. I'm going to have to probably go back to that because I stopped listening to it. But what was happening is that one of the people who was on the show was a guy named Raheem Kassam, who used to be the editor, I think, of Breitbart London. He's English, and he's grown up there and educated there and all this other kind of thing. Really bright guy. Mm-hmm. And his big claim to fame is that he was the wingman for Nigel Farage on the Brexit matter.
Wow. So
he was always involved with Brexit and all kinds of stuff, and he knows Nigel Farage incredibly well. So the point is that they got him and a couple of other guys on this podcast, and they would be together hosting the show, talking about various things and whatever. And at one point or another, Raheem Kassam mentioned that he was the editor of something called the National Pulse, which is basically an online magazine or newspaper that's published all the time, and that for which they were looking for people to write for them. So I went there and looked at it. It was definitely, politically oriented and all kinds of stuff, but it was basically more than anything like a hard news and analysis site. And I went there and I put in for it, and what they were doing was they were offering writing fellowships where you could actually get on as somebody who had the opportunity to write articles for them, pitch articles to them and topics and whatever, and just send it to them and whatever. So the point is that I sent in an application and I was accepted as a writing fellow about a month and a half ago. And sent back all the paperwork they asked for, and then they sent out the guidelines, And I immediately started agonizing because, in a newspaper newsroom, they assign you stuff to write about.
Right.
With this one, they expected you to pitch ideas that he was going to accept or not accept.
Oh, that's
and
so good.
I literally I felt frozen. That's what I felt. I was like, oh
really?
my God.
I think it would be so exciting to be like, how about this? How about that? How about this?
Yeah, except that I couldn't think of a single thing that I would pitch to him, which is terrible. And they said, we expect you to pitch 2 to 4 articles a day. And I'm like, oh my God.
But we're pitching podcast ideas nonstop. So any of the ideas we come up for that would be good too.
I don't disagree, but the fact of the matter is that you had to pitch something that was going to be interesting enough to him that he was going to be able to look at it. So I pitched him some stuff, and I would get responses back saying, no, that doesn't work, this is why. And I finally pitched him last week when they were talking about chloroquine for the first time. Mm-hmm. People were starting to get interesting, and I said, this looks interesting. And what about the fact, by the way, that there is a link to malaria? Because there's a guy who's done some research who has written basically that he actually ran the numbers and figured out that there's an inverse proportionate relationship between people who have malaria and have taken chloroquine and people who are getting coronavirus.
Yeah.
People who have had malaria and take chloroquine are far less likely to get coronavirus than, in fact, the numbers are startling. They are so stark. Wow. And so it's really amazing. So the point is, this guy posted this on his Facebook page, and I got hold of it and said, this is really interesting. And Raheem said, okay, go ahead and write it. So I wrote it, and I turned it in, and I got an email back on Sunday morning, and he opened his email with nearly great. And I thought, oh, wow. And so he said, I need these changes, and I needed some additional sourcing. And I said, okay. So I did it, and I sent it back to him. And it was published last night.
I'm so excited for you.
Yes, it's so great.
It's
my
such
first political article. I know.
It's such an exciting time to be published too, because on the topic as well. So I think it's going to be just so incredible.
And what's really there's an additional wrinkle this morning.
Oh, what?
And that is that what's happening is Raheem is getting so overwhelmed with pitches from these people, because I actually have sent him more pitches and I haven't heard back from him yet. Mm-hmm. He said, what I want to do is I want to start us on like an online chat where we can talk to each other, and that way I get the pitches from you directly, not through email, and that way I can respond to you as quickly as possible. So he started us on this whole thing, which I got set up this morning. And the first thing he said to me was, hi, Susan Sloate, great artical. So I was like, whoa, that's wonderful. But the cool thing is that one of the other writing fellows who actually is on there said, I just want you to know I retweeted it. I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. I love it.
Awesome.
I was so excited. I put it on Facebook. I showed it to my son, and I was like, you have to look at this. This is really exciting.
Yeah.
He was, wow. But his feeling is, now that he can't watch sports, nothing looks interesting. But, there you are. But it was very exciting, though. It really is. And I'm looking for it. I've got a number of other articles that I'm interested in doing. It seems like once I sort of open the door, it seems like I have a lot more ideas that I'm interested in pitching, and more things that look like they might be interesting. So putting them out there to Raheem and hoping that he will get me, he'll get excited about something and say, do that one, and see what happens.
Oh, that's so awesome. Now, give us a quick rundown about the chloroquine thing, because I know we talked about it a little bit already, or we talked about it. It'll show up in our last jam of today's podcast, but give us kind of what you learned in the last 24 hours, let's say.
Yeah, the thing is, the interesting thing about communication today, as you know, is it's literally instantaneous.
Yeah.
I mean, something can go viral in 15 minutes.
Right.
Which is insanity. It's crazy the way it's going around the world. But what actually happened was, last week for the first time, I heard Laura Ingraham talking about this with somebody who is a researcher who had actually come up with promising results on this, and was talking about the fact that every person who had taken it had recovered and nobody had died.
Yeah.
Now that immediately is a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. But so I started looking into it, and that's when I found that article from that researcher who had the inverse proportions with malaria, and I sent that to Raheem, and he got excited about that. In the last 24 hours, what I've learned is that Sean Hannity has uncovered a doctor who's been using it in New York City.
Yeah, wow.
He's had 350 cases, and every one of those people has recovered, and nobody has died.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
It really is unbelievable.
Well, and the great news is that it's affordable, and I did a little bit of research just I wanted to know what the base of it, like what's the natural component of it.
Right.
And I kind of did some digging around this morning and found out that it's from a tree in Africa. The bark.
Oh, quinine class of drug, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just
Those have
interesting.
been used for a couple of 100 years now, to tell you the truth.
I know. It's so, yeah. Anyways.
It's ridiculous. And what's interesting also is I actually did some research, and if you are the kind of person who has like a free prescription card where you get discounts on prescription drugs, it costs about 3 cents a dose.
Wow.
Is that incredible?
Yeah, it's incredible.
So now, if you want to hear something else that's kind of interesting, you know, this is under the heading of Israel is our friend.
Right.
Did you know that Israel has decided to kind of help us out because they see that we're struggling here?
Yeah.
Israel has donated 6 million doses to us.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
That is incredible.
Yeah, and they said by the end of the month they expect it to be up to 10 million doses.
Are they the ones who make it?
No, they have Israeli doctors, of course, but I don't think they're the only ones who make it. We've been making it for years here, so
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess because Israel's smaller, then they don't need as many that they have
I'm
over
sure
there.
they don't need as many because their population is so much smaller than
Right.
ours.
Wow, that's so
For
cool.
sure. That's amazing.
You
And,
should
know,
always support Israel.
Oh yeah, I do support Israel.
The Lord says he will bless those who bless Israel. So guess what?
Well,
we have blessed
yes, we bless-
Israel.
Yes, and we are grateful.
And we're
also,
reaping
by the
that,
way, there's
yeah.
some interesting stuff, and I don't know if we've talked about this, but there are stories that have happened recently with, I'm going to get this wrong, Chinese research scientists who have been arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah, who have been arrested trying to take stuff out of the country that basically
Right.
intellectual property that they've stolen.
Yes.
But what's interesting is that one of the things that they stole were doses of coronavirus.
Oh, yeah.
And they not only stole that, but they replicated it. And they actually found this stuff inside vials that the guy had stored in his suitcase in his socks.
Yeah, they picked him up in Logan Airport.
Yep.
Yeah, I read the
Yeah.
article. I think we talked a little bit about that in the Trump phone call thing that
That's
we
true.
recorded. So, yeah, there's a lot of information out there about that, and that's the Wuhan University that the guy was taking it to, also.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting thing is it's a research university, so obviously they're doing all kinds of projects there all the time. And there seems to be, from the stuff that I'm reading, like on Twitter and whatever, like we all know exactly how, you know, how responsible all that stuff is.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
but from the stuff that I'm reading, there seems to be a certain amount of feeling that a lot of this comes from some sort of, how do I say this? Comes from some sort of, you know, I don't want to say antagonism that they have toward us.
Yeah.
Or some wish to do us harm. I don't know, but whatever is going on.
What, China?
And of course, with this, yeah.
Oh, they
yeah.
want to be the world. They want to lead the world. They want to
do
take
wanna lead
over
the world.
You know, they're the
You know.
evil geniuses that want to take over the world. Let's face it.
And that's true. And the latest one, by the way, is the UK overnight has been locked down.
I know. I heard that. And then also, did you hear that Daniel Day Kim, the guy from Lost in Hawaii Five-0?
Yes.
His
yes.
coronavirus is gone because
Right.
of this
But
medicine.
because of chloroquine. Yes. Absolutely.
So it's
and then
really
the other
exciting.
thing also is that Hannity had a guy on yesterday. I had read his story before I heard, but what actually happened was he's 52 years old. He lives in South Florida. He got coronavirus. He was in the hospital on. He had additional problems, medical problems that were leading to issues, and so he was having terrible trouble breathing. And after about 9 days or something, the doctor said, "We don't have anything else we can do for you." So he basically told his wife and his kids, you know, pretty much that's it.
Yeah, I read
what
this
happened
article.
was-
Yeah.
Right, and what happened was a friend of his sent him information about chloroquine and said, you need to do this immediately. And so he got special dispensation to use it because his doctor wasn't going to do it. He got an infectious disease doctor to agree to prescribe it. They gave him dosages of it, and by 4 o'clock the following morning, he said he woke up feeling as though nothing had ever happened.
Yeah, I read that article this morning. And you know, thank goodness that Trump did the right to try thing.
Yes, I know, because it's making such a difference right now with all the stuff that's going on.
Otherwise, all of this would be, kind of held up unless you had a friend that was a doctor that was going to get it for you.
I know the worst part about all of it is this stuff has been FDA approved for years, but now the issue becomes we have to FDA approve it for this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there has been no this. It's only been around for about a month. So,
but everyone has a right to try. When you're on your deathbed. I mean, I heard that guy was like, I've said goodbye on Skype to my family, my 2 girls and my wife, and what's the worst thing it can do to me is kill me at this point. Yeah, I want to try it.
He expected to die anyway. He literally could not breathe. He felt like there was something on his chest all the time.
Yeah.
Terrible, terrible thing. It's and the interesting thing is more and more, I mean, I know it's anecdotal, but more and more we're getting information that this stuff is helping. And that's just a very, very big deal.
It's so great. Anyway, I want to say congratulations to you. We're going to move on to our next jam. And if you get a chance to go read Susan's article, I encourage you to go check it out at the National Pulse. And the title of the article is Chloroquine.
What do we know?
Yeah, what do we know? Okay. And we'll be back in a moment with our next jam. Thanks.
Stay with us.
You're listening to the Talk Jam podcast with Kelly Fitzgerald Fowler and Susan Sloate. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute with another jam.
Today's episode of Talk Jam is sponsored by the novel Forward to Camelot by Susan Sloate and Kevin Finn. It's a time travel thriller about the JFK assassination that's a real page-turner that I hope you're not going to miss. It's available everywhere on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all online outlets. And the story is about a young woman from the year 2000 who has the opportunity to save JFK from assassination and her chance to do that. Here is what we have to say about that. On November 22, 1963, just hours after President Kennedy's assassination, Lyndon Johnson was sworn in as president aboard Air Force One using JFK's own Bible. Immediately afterwards, the Bible disappeared. It has never been recovered. Today, its value would be beyond price. In the year 2000, actress Katie Kyler is recruited to return to 1963 for this Bible, while also discovering why her father disappeared in the same city on the same tragic day. Finding frightening links between them will lead Katie to a far more perilous mission, to somehow prevent the president's murder with one unlikely ally, an ex-Marine named Lee Harvey Oswald. Forward to Camelot brings together an unlikely trio: a gallant president, the young patriot who risks his own life to save him, and the woman who knows their future, who's desperate to save them both. History can be altered.
Welcome back to Talk Jam, everybody. This is Susan Sloate.
And this is Kelly Fitzgerald Fowler.
And we are back with our next jam, and we're going to be talking, this is one of our fun jams, we're going to be talking about great Easter films.
Yay!
I mean, we're coming up on Easter, and Easter's a wonderful, wonderful time of the year.
It is.
And I should start, by the way, by saying that it's taken me a very, very long time to understand, because I'm a relatively new Christian. I only actually was baptized in 2009. Mm-hmm. I really did not understand for a long time why Easter was such a big deal, and it has taken me a long time to realize why it is the big deal that it is. Christmas is still my favorite holiday, but Easter still has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
So
because Easter is all really the resurrection, all that stuff is very similar to Passover. Right?
Passover, which says, honest to God, every time I think of Passover, which I used to be part of when I was Jewish, I got to tell you, I think of Passover and I think of matzo balls, which is one of my happiest memories of all time.
That's funny.
Matzo balls are great things.
Yeah, so with Jesus being the Lamb of God, it makes sense to people who know a lot about Passover. The lamb, the blood of the lamb on the doors is what
this is absolutely
allowed
true,
people to survive. So
I'm wondering whether in the Bible that was considered a literary foreshadowing of what was coming up.
It absolutely is. It's very symbolic of Jesus, yes.
Okay.
And which brings me to, like, when I was a kid on TV, they always had Easter films, and of course, the Ten Commandments, right?
Love the Ten Commandments.
I do too. Great. Yeah, it was great.
I mean, to this day, it's one of my very favorite movies. You've got who is it? The old Pharaoh who's talking to Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
He says, well, why is Moses such a big deal to you? I sent Moses to destroy a city. He returns in triumph. I send you to build a city. Where is it? Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep. Another Easter film that's really famous is The Passion of the Christ.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. I know you said you told me you haven't seen it because you don't like gore at all, and it is one of the more gory films out there.
No, my tolerance for gory films has really gone out. I can't even stand, frankly, horror movies. I really can't. Never watch them. But The Passion of the Christ is something I wanted to see because I felt like it had something to say to me. And I have discovered something really wonderful that I wanted to tell you about. This is very exciting.
Yeah.
They are making a sequel to The Passion of the Christ.
Yes, I'm so excited. Tell me
This
what
is
else.
wonderful.
Tell me everything you know about
I
it.
read it this morning. This is really fascinating. What's happened is The Passion of the Christ came out, I think, in like 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is it spoke in the only language that Hollywood knows, the language of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it made something like $600 million around the world. I looked it up.
Yeah.
And it made so much money that they actually offered Mel Gibson the chance to run a studio.
Wow.
Now, this doesn't happen very often. The last person I've ever heard of who is a filmmaker who was offered the chance to run a studio is David Putnam, who had made Chariots of Fire.
Oh, wow.
And he was offered the chance to run a studio, and he took it, and he didn't do very well with it. Mel Gibson thankfully said no.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that he made so much money that that's what they wanted. They began to realize, religious films may have a place here.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is that I had wanted to see it. I never got around to it. And what my understanding is, because I looked it up, the Passion of the Christ ends pretty much with the crucifixion, and then there's a bit about the resurrection, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah. It just shows Jesus at the very end, and he's got like, holes in it, the nail holes in his
Right.
hands and everything. It was really an incredible ending. And I remember at the end of that, even at the theater, I was just like, oh my gosh, I hope they do a film about what
The
happened
resurrection.
the next.
Yeah. What's interesting?
It's the
apparently,
next
is
40
that
days is what that is.
the next film is going to actually be a significant thing about the resurrection. So, and what's really interesting is that say his name again. I can't say it.
Jim
right.
Caviezel, yeah.
Right, Jim Caviezel, who is a really good actor,
Yeah.
actually is going to play Jesus again.
That's so
And this
cool.
is 15 years later, which
Yeah,
is amazing
wow.
to me. It really, really is. I mean, he was the right age at that time, but he's obviously not the right age now.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it again, which is fantastic.
He's an
And the guy-
incredible actor.
He is. He's wonderful.
I've met him in person, by the way.
Tell me about that. That sounds fantastic.
Oh, well, when the Passion of the Christ came out, and he also did an audio recording. It's a docudrama about of the Bible.
Oh, wow.
And he played Jesus in the docudrama, and he came to our church and spoke, and I mean he's just so amazing. And I met him in person. I have his autograph, and he actually spoke Latin to my daughter, who had taken 4 years of Latin in college, and she was actually wearing a shirt that had Italy on it, and so that's what made him start talking Latin to her, and she responded back to him in Latin. Isn't that cool?
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah,
That is very cool.
It was very cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, Jesus spoke to you. Anyway,
Wow.
it was really
that
cool.
That doesn't happen all the time for sure. So,
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive.
Remind me when
Wow.
next time we're in person. We're doing this because of the social distancing. Susan's on the phone recording,
Yes.
but remind me next time you're here. I'll show you his autograph.
Yes, I'd like to see that.
But
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, there's another really great thing out there too. The Chosen is it's a series right now on VidAngel that you could watch for free. If you download the app called The Chosen, you can watch it on your phone for absolutely free. Or if you sign up for VidAngel, they'll give you a free VidAngel subscription until the end of this month, and you can watch it on your TV for free. And it's an incredible series about the life of Jesus and him in Capernaum and kind of his day-to-day life. And it's a series though, so it'll be a weekly series that they'll keep adding on to. So it's really
Well,
good.
my understanding, I saw the first couple of episodes when they were giving those away for free.
Mm-hmm.
And the episodes are really about the lives of the apostles.
Yeah, it is.
Who they were, how they got chosen, and all this kind of thing. And it's really fascinating because the Bible tells you almost nothing about these people.
Yeah.
You may get, he's a fisherman. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
this is a really wonderful way to fill in your knowledge about what was going on there. And the writing and directing and everything are really excellent.
They
They're
are
really, really
excellent. Oh, I'm so excited that not B-rated film people, I mean, nothing against it, but I want the best of the best producers, directors, actors, musicians, all of it to do films about biblical stuff, because the general public, when they see it not well done, they don't like it. So
I know they turn away. The part that's interesting is the people who are doing The Chosen seem very, very committed and
Yeah.
very, very very involved with what they're doing. So it's a very exciting thing for them. The other thing I want to throw in a quick thing for is I really love the movie Son of God, which is basically about Jesus' choosing his disciples and his life up to the crucifixion. Yeah. Really, really wonderful. One of my favorites. And then there was another one that I can't remember the name of. It was about a Roman soldier being assigned to deal with the mystery of what happened to Jesus after he died, because there's this fear that if people found out that his body had been removed from the crypt, that they would get all these ideas and all this other kind of thing. And I can't remember the name of that one, but we were literally just talking about it not too long ago. I saw that one too, and I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that film.
And what it dealt with really was it dealt with Jesus basically after the resurrection, when he was still on earth, talking to his disciples and whatever. And it's really interesting because at one point Philip turns to the Roman soldiers and he said, "You want to know why we follow him? This is the reason why." And it's very moving. So I can't remember the name of that one. I have to look it up, but I have to see that.
It's not the red robe, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's something very. It's a really good title. I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah. Huh.
So anyway, that I think probably covers our Easter films, the ones that we can talk about.
Yep.
Go and find all the ones you like, and please rewatch the 10 Commandments, because they're always worth seeing. Ben-Hur is also worth seeing again. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And so we will be back with more jams for you. But meanwhile, this is our jam for today. Keep on jamming, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Talk Jam podcast with Kelly Fitzgerald Fowler and Susan Sloate.
Hey, welcome back to Talk Jam. This is Kelly Fitzgerald Fowler, and
this is Susan Sloate.
We have a very exciting thing to talk about today. Susan does anyway. Go for it, girl.
I do. Kelly, you are not going to believe who I just spoke to on the telephone.
Who was it?
The President of the United States.
Whoa!
Yeah, can you believe that?
I cannot believe that. It's so cool. So tell me what happened.
Well, what actually happened was I got an email this morning, and it was addressed to people who are on the email list of the Small Business Administration. And they were saying that if you wanted to have information, they were doing a conference call this afternoon with the President of the United States. And if you're interested, please sign up to do that. And I thought, you know what? This is the President of the United States. What the heck? And I actually just saw him a couple of weeks ago at a rally, and I was really excited about that. We've already talked about it. So I figured I sent my name in, and I immediately got signed up. And when I got on the call, which was a couple of minutes before the call started this afternoon, the interesting thing was they said you're on the call with like 638 people. Wow. It was not that many at all. And the whole idea was that they were going to be talking to us about what they were doing for small business to try to combat what was going on with the virus, and basically just kind of let us know that we should just kind of chill out and everything will be fine. And so they introduced the president, and the president came on and he said, I just want to tell you how much I love small business. I've worked with you all my life. You guys basically employ almost half the workers in America, which is really important. And you always have creative and brilliant solutions to problems. So I know that we're going to make this thing happen. And he talks about that. He was really sort of cheerleading for us, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which was great, And so once he was done, the guy who is, the woman who is like the head of the Small Business Administration got on and started speaking. And then they brought in somebody else, and then they brought in Larry Kudlow, who's the president's economic advisor. I think the head of the Economic Advisory Council. And anyway, he was talking about what was going on, and he said essentially the main thing really is that do not panic about what's going on in the stock market. He said, I promise you, if you just leave everything alone, it will come back up. And he said the thing that was really distressing was how well this year was beginning, because we had the best year we've ever had economically in our entire history, and it was going amazingly well. And he says he's pretty convinced it's just going to pop when the time comes that we actually can say we've got this thing under control. But until then, you've got a lot of nervous people. He said, as long as you do not sell, hang on to what you have. Don't look at the stock market. It doesn't make any difference. It's all going to be fine. He said, these are all good companies that you bought into, and they're not going to be less good companies. So you're not losing anything by just hanging on. And he was wonderful. And then he ended the call. It was only about 20 minutes. And it was absolutely amazing. And there I was on the phone with the President of the United States. Can you believe that?
No, that's so exciting. Did they let anybody ask any questions?
No. Everything was muted. So you could listen, but you could not speak.
Oh, wow.
And so it was one of those things where it's really interesting, too, because I can remember my son telling me that the place where he goes to buy like equipment and stuff for his vapes, they actually had those people to a round table at the White House.
Oh.
Yeah, specifically to talk about vaping and how, how to make things work and what was the problem with that and all this other kind of thing. And the woman who was the co-owner of this business went up to Washington for this thing specifically because she wanted to be able to let the president understand how important vaping was as an alternative to smoking and how important it was to make sure that it was still possible for people to be able to use it.
Yeah.
Because that's their whole business. So anyway, the point is that I cannot say this for sure, and I could be wrong, but I got the impression that at some point, at whatever point, they began to feel like they were starting to get things under control, because today's call was really about, here are the steps that we are taking. Here's what's going to be happening. I get the impression that there may be another call basically to say, this is what we've done, this is what we're going to continue to do, and this is what we have noticed as a result of doing those things. So that's kind of where we are, and it was wonderful to listen in and listen to all the stuff that was being done. Some of it was in certain ways over my head. I was trying very hard to pay attention. They were talking about deferring payroll taxes and forgiveness of loans and all kinds of other stuff, and basically to keep people's businesses alive at a time when a lot of these, I mean, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about, and I'd like to know your opinion. In your opinion, what percentage of small businesses in America are businesses that are basically based on hospitality?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you mean like hotels? Hotels and restaurants?
Resorts.
What percentage?
Yeah, what percentage? I mean, is it, I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean, I guess if you just drive down the street, you'd see there's like, 50 restaurants and then a couple of service industry, dentists, doctors, stuff like that. So, I mean,
I know. It's interesting too.
It's probably more than 50%.
Okay, well, think about that then. I mean,
but
the area that we live in is a major hospitality area.
Yeah,
it's huge, it's considered one of the major hotel or major vacation spots in the world.
Yeah,
and then you have things like the Disney parks, and you have cruise lines, and you have airlines, and you have anything like that involves taking people to and from things like that. You also have people that run concerts, and you have hotel people and all this other kind of thing. So that's really a big deal. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a small business person because you're author business, right?
That's true.
I'm a small business person also. My husband and I have a family business of selling blinds and shutters, and so we've been watching this very closely. And when they bailed the banks out, remember back
after The Big Short. Yes.
I think that Donald Trump was out and about with his buddy, like talking to small business people at that time, and they were all like, why would they bail out the banks and not give a crud about the small business owners? I mean, the small business owners are the backbone.
I don't think that the Bush administration did give a crud about.
I know, and that's the thing. That was the whole reason why I was like, good riddance to that. You know what I mean? But also, I just feel like he has such a different approach. I am so excited about the fact that he has such a different approach to running our country.
And one of the things that you said to me that I just loved, you were talking to me before about how you had actually taken the trouble to watch a lot of the episodes of The Apprentice that you might have originally missed, and how you said that even though you yourself had a business background and a business degree, you found that a lot of times the response that Trump himself would make would always be different than what you would personally have decided on.
Always.
And you found that so interesting.
Well, you think it was so weird. It's like there's more than one way to skin a cat. I hate to use that terminology, but it's like you think that your way is the best way, but really there could be a couple of different options that would have great turnouts also. And
that's true.
That's one thing that I actually learned from watching The Apprentice. The other thing about The Apprentice, I'll tell you, is it is a marketing show. And so
sure it is.
I was marketing. I'm marketing my business. So I had to figure out how to do it. So when I started watching it, I'm like, this show is great for me because he is really having all these people go out and they're trying to sell a product in different types of ways, raising money, or, during Celebrity Apprentice, it was to raise money, but they were working with businesses all over the country doing stuff with them. I mean, it was a really great masterclass to watch The Apprentice. I have to tell you.
I'm sure it was. I think I'm going to go back and start watching it. It was one of those things I never watched. And then when he got elected, I started watching it because it's kind of like, oh, okay, so what was this really about?
Yeah.
And I never watched Celebrity Apprentice, but I watched some of the early episodes of the first season, and I was like, this is really interesting, the decisions he's making and why.
Yeah.
You know, and at one point there was one person that they had a problem, and that person had been the project leader. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a woman. I think it was a woman who was sitting there, and she was saying, and he was saying, well, I have to get rid of somebody. You know, what are you going to do? And she said, well, I want you to know that I'm taking full responsibility for the fact that my team did not actually accomplish what we wanted. We wanted something so much better, and we did not accomplish what we did. And he said, I've got to get rid of somebody, but I don't want to get rid of you. And she said, sir, I'm being responsible here. I am taking responsibility for this. This is my responsibility. He said, do you want to leave? She said, no, I don't want to leave. But I'm telling you, that's what I'm doing. I am responsible for this. I am the person you need to blame. It did not turn out the way I had planned it. It is my mistake. And you know what? I'm the person who needs to take responsibility. And he would not get rid of her.
Yeah.
It was really cool. He was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to keep you, and we're not going to get rid of anybody next to right now. So
I know.
I thought that was a really
that
cool
funny?
way to do it.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
I thought that was really amazing because he really liked the person who's sitting in front of him.
Yeah.
And she was refusing to give, you know, he was like, well, you know, it's somebody else you could blame. And she's like, no, I'm not blaming anybody else. I'm blaming myself.
Yeah.
I'm the one who needs to be blamed here. So I thought that was great.
Yeah. I remember telling my husband early on, I'm like, of all these reality TV shows, this is the one I would really love to do.
Oh, what a shame.
As soon as they changed it to Celebrity Apprentice, I knew it would end because it's the same thing that happened to models on magazines. As soon as they started putting celebrities on magazines, that was it for the model.
Well, you know, of course, by the way, that the reason the show ended was not because of the celebrities. It was the fact the show was really very highly rated. It's the fact that he wasn't hosting it anymore. That was the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think he needs to actually start thinking about a new reality show when he leaves the presidency. He can actually train people to go into politics, which would be fantastic.
Oh, gosh.
You know?
One of his press conferences we were watching this week, I mean, he's had one every day. Someone asked him a question and he skirted around it, and Judge and I at the same time looked at each other and said, this man has learned how to be a politician.
It doesn't take much, really.
He answered the question without answering the question, and it was just like, okay, next question. It was hilarious.
Yep. He's learned what he needs to learn. I don't think he'll ever become the kind of politician we all can't stand.
Yeah.
But he has become the kind of person who can actually handle what's thrown at him, which, you know, he's always been able to do. So anyway, I'm going to wrap that up. I just wanted to tell you all about my amazing phone call with the president.
Very
exciting.
exciting.
Maybe next time we'll ever get to the point where it'd actually be a one-on-one call. That would be really cool.
That would be so cool. Well, I would like to be invited to the White House by Melania, actually. I wouldn't mind going and hanging out with her.
Oh, you wouldn't. I'm sure she'd really appreciate that.
I told you I sent her my book, right?
No, you didn't tell me.
Yeah. For Christmas, I actually sent them a copy of my book, my novel, for Christmas. Isn't that funny?
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't you tell me, did you get a note back from them or anything?
Yeah, I did. I got a thank you card.
How sweet.
Yeah. So you never know. I could end up on some list somewhere.
You never know.
They might say, let's pull out all those books that people have sent us and invite all those authors to the White House.
I think that's a brilliant idea. That means I should send them a copy of Forward to Camelot immediately.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. You should send them a copy of that. For sure.
I should.
I know the address.
I absolutely should.
It's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, I know the same address. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Now, I'm going to go get my email list on the Small Business Association email list so that I can get an invitation because I want to join the next one.
Right.
That'd be so
cool. I think it's a great idea. I don't suppose, by the way, you have a zip code for 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, well, I will seriously think about it.
You can look it up online.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, main thing really is that I just wanted to let you know, and we'll be doing a lot of other different experiments just to see what works and what doesn't work, but it's really wonderful to be able to tell all of you that I was on a call with the president today, and it was great.
Excellent. So, okay.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Talk Jam. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review and tell your friends. Email us your thoughts and show ideas at talkjampodcast@gmail.com. All opinions expressed on this show are those of the hosts and should not be attributed to anyone else. Till next time, keep on jamming.